Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a topic that's, well, it's moving incredibly fast. AI, specifically those generative models like ChatGPT. You're probably using AI already, maybe more than you think, and it's definitely making waves in academia. So let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into something really crucial for, well, anyone in research or learning, the ethics of using AI in academic work. We've looked at some interesting sources that frame AI as this kind of double-edged sword. It can be a fantastic helper, yeah, but also potentially problematic for academic integrity. Our goal here is to give you a clearer path forward.
It is fascinating, isn't it? AI has this huge potential, to make things more efficient, boost productivity. One paper we read really highlights this. But at the same time, it forces us to re-examine these really core ideas: academic integrity, human input, transparency. It's not just what AI does, but how we make sure it fits with, well, the fundamental values of scholarship.
Okay, let's start with the big why. Why does this matter so much right now? Academic writing, research, it's always been tough, hasn't it? You need structured arguments, data, logic, often juggling tons of information.
Absolutely. And historically, the challenges were things like, keeping the tone right, maintaining accuracy, just dealing with the sheer volume of data, plus that whole publish or perish pressure, making sure work is original, referencing everything correctly. AI initially looked like a way to tackle a lot of that. One source pointed this out quite clearly.
Right. So AI seems like this game changer, potentially solving old problems. But I guess it brings its own set of ethical headaches too. Our sources seem to point to this real tension between AI's power and, well, keeping that human touch and integrity.
Yeah.
What are the biggest red flags we should be aware of?
Indeed. And if you look at the broader picture, like in one analysis from a journal focused on ethical tech, it's clear. AI boosts productivity, sure, but it also brings up major ethical issues around privacy, transparency. There's a really key principle mentioned there. AI systems shouldn't be seen as equal to humans, but as tools to assist humans, who are ultimately the moral agents. So the big question is, what happens when that assistant starts blurring the lines of who's actually responsible?
That idea of human agency, yeah, that feels central. Another paper we looked at, focusing on generative AI and integrity, really connects this to the physicist Richard Feynman's idea of utter honesty. Bending over backwards to show all the details, even the inconvenient ones. But if an AI is heavily involved in generating ideas or analyzing data, does that shift who's responsible for that honesty? Like, can you really maintain that human oversight when the AI is so deeply embedded?
Those are absolutely critical questions. They touch on fundamental academic values. Another paper looking at large language models in healthcare research warns about weakening critical thinking and propagating biases, even AI hallucinations, basically, making things up, all of which can undermine the scientific method itself. And, an STM publisher's webinar called AI, that double-edged sword again, because it could potentially allow people to fake research on a scale we've never seen before. Plus, there are big questions about intellectual property. Ultimately, it's about making sure that the knowledge we create is, credible, trustworthy, regardless of the tools.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this actually mean for you, the listener, in your day-to-day research? It's obviously not about banning AI altogether. It's about using it smartly, responsibly, and our sources do offer some really practical advice here.
Absolutely. One paper identifies sort of 6 main areas where AI helps. We can use those along with guidance from another source, like a 10 simple rules for navigating AI type of paper to build a practical workflow. Let's maybe walk through those.
Yeah, let's do that. First up, idea generation and research design. AI can definitely give you a jump start here, right? Brainstorming, finding gaps in the literature, generating hypotheses, even helping design studies. It's like having a supercharged thinking partner.
It is. And interestingly, Rule 1 in that 10 rules paper really stresses framing your scientific question clearly first and understanding your data. AI might suggest different approaches: supervised learning, unsupervised, maybe Bayesian stats. But the ethical piece here is you, the human, have to critically evaluate those suggestions. Are they sound? Does the model's objective make sense? You can't just blindly follow the AI's output. You still own the intellectual direction.
Okay, so you've got your initial ideas, then comes content development and structuring. AI seems great at this: expanding text, predictive suggestions, outlining. But how do we use that effectively without, as Rule 3 in the 10 Rules paper warns, just reinventing the wheel with AI?
That's a really good point. Rule 3 basically says, look around first, See what methods or solutions exist in other fields, use existing software packages or model zoos, these pre-trained AI models. It speeds things up, sure, but it also means you're building on something potentially more robust. Ethically, the key is using AI to assist your thinking and writing, not replace it entirely. And we have to be really mindful, as another source warned, that AI can be used to create fraudulent articles. So vigilance is key.
Next, literature review and synthesis. This sounds amazing. AI pulling info from tons of papers, making summary tables. Imagine the time saved.
Huge time saver, potentially. But Rule 2 from the 10 rules emphasizes learning the terminology both in your field and in AI more broadly. That's crucial for actually finding and using these tools effectively. And while AI can synthesize, you absolutely have to maintain that academic rigor. Check its output carefully for accuracy, for bias. Make sure you're not just accepting a flawed summary.
Right. Then there's data management and analysis. AI is obviously powerful here, interpreting data, visualizing it, even helping curate data sets. This feels like a real augmentation of human skills.
Definitely. And the 10 rules paper gives some clear pointers. Rule 4 is about investing time in your code, using things like Git for version control, virtual environments like Conda or Docker so others can reproduce your work. And Rule 7 suggests starting with synthetic or fake data to test your model. It helps ensure it works properly and lets you figure out if problems are with the model or just not enough real data. This is so important for data integrity. You don't want misleading results, especially if they have real-world ethical consequences.
Okay, and then editing, review, and publishing support. Things like proofreading, editing, drafting abstracts, even handling peer review comments. AI seems like a natural helper here.
It can be, but again, there's a connection to the 10 rules. Rule 5 introduces the FAIR principles: findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. For data and code, yes, but it applies to AI models too. Sharing your code, your training data, maybe even the model weights that promotes transparency and reproducibility. Ethically, it means being upfront about how AI helped refine your work, especially when you publish. Clarity is the goal.
And finally, communication, outreach, and ethical compliance. AI helping tailor content for different audiences, social media, translation, accessibility. This is about getting your research out there.
Exactly. And this links directly to Rule 9 in the 10 rules, aiming for AI that's explainable, interpretable, trustworthy. That might mean using techniques to show why the AI made a certain decision, understanding how the neural network actually works. Ethically, you need to make sure all your communication upholds high standards. That includes compliance checks, plagiarism detection, remembering that AI text can sound convincing but be wrong or biased.
Okay, so we've seen the potential uses. Now let's really get down to the specifics, the do's and don'ts. What's generally okay and what's definitely not okay if you want to maintain academic integrity.
This is so crucial, and yeah, policies are still being hammered out by different journals and institutions, but there is a growing consensus on several key points, looking at guidelines from major players like Elsevier, the Korean Journal of Radiology, KJR, STM, ICM, JE.
Let's start with the DOs, what's generally considered acceptable. Okay, so using AI to improve language grammar, spelling, clarity, especially helpful if English isn't your first language. That seems fine. Using it for brainstorming, finding literature gaps, structuring your paper, kind of like a research assistant. Acceptable. Getting AI help with data interpretation, descriptions, maybe creating charts or graphs from complex data. Also generally okay. And using it for proofreading, editing, maybe drafting a summary or abstract to refine your own writing, that's acceptable too, as long as the core work is yours.
Right. Now for the don't teas. And these are pretty firm across the board. Number 1, AI cannot be an author. Full stop. Elsevier, KJR, everyone agrees. Authorship comes with responsibilities for accuracy, integrity, originality that an AI simply cannot fulfill. Only humans. Number 2, don't use AI to generate the core content or ideas. Generally, using AI tools to actually create the main substance, the central arguments or theories of your paper, is discouraged, unless perhaps the AI itself is the subject of the research, which is a specific case mentioned by KJR. Some journals, like Science, flat out ban AI-generated text or images without explicit permission. Number 3, don't use AI to create or alter research data or images. STM guidelines are very clear here. Generating things like images, x-rays, or manipulating data with AI is a no-go unless it's a documented part of your research method and clearly labeled as such. Number 4, reviewers should not use public AI tools. This is about confidentiality. Peer reviewers and editors have a duty to keep manuscripts private. Uploading papers or reviews to public AI platforms, that's a breach of confidentiality, as STM and other sources point out. Number 5, don't just accept AI output uncritically. Remember, AI can generate text that sounds authoritative, but might be biased, incomplete, or just plain wrong. Human oversight, critical review is always, always necessary. And finally, number 6, plagiarism. You, the human author, are responsible for ensuring your paper is free of plagiarism. That includes anything generated by AI, and you can't cite AI-generated text as if it were a primary source.
Okay, that's pretty clear. So if you do use AI appropriately, following those DAOs, how do you acknowledge it properly? Transparency seems key, but how specific do you need to be?
Yeah, the consensus on the need for disclosure is really strong, even if the exact how varies a bit between publishers. One paper put it simply, disclosing AI use is essential for transparency.
So what details do they want? Name and version of the tool, date, who made it.
Exactly. Sources agree you should provide the specific AI tool used, its version, when you accessed it, and the company or creator. And crucially, you need to clearly explain how you used it. What parts of the research or writing process did it assist with? Be specific.
And where does this disclosure go in the paper?
It depends on how you used it. If AI was part of the actual research, like data analysis or generating results, that should go in the materials and methods section, or maybe in figure legends. Several sources mention this. But if you only used AI for, say, language polishing, editing, refining the writing, that typically belongs in the acknowledgments section. And some guidelines, like those from ICMJE, even suggest mentioning AI use in your cover letter when you submit, as well as in the manuscript itself.
Interesting. What about those basic grammar checkers, though? Do you need to disclose using something like Grammarly?
That's where you see a bit of variation. Most policies focus on more substantive AI help. The KJR policy, for instance, specifically says using AI just for language improvement is acceptable and doesn't require disclosure. However, other publishers, like Elsevier, lean towards encouraging a general statement, even for language help, just to be fully transparent and emphasize that a human still checked everything. So the best advice, always check the specific journal's guidelines.
Right. Better safe than sorry. I heard Elsevier even prompts authors about this during submission now.
Yeah, they have a pop-up apparently offering a template statement. It shows how this is becoming a standard part of the process. But the main takeaway is crystal clear. The human author is always responsible for the entire submission, everything in it, including anything AI helped with. You have to guarantee accuracy, coherence, and that there's no plagiarism.
Okay, so that covers the current landscape. But AI isn't standing still, is it? It's changing things so fast. How do we prepare for what's next?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What's really striking is how the very idea of human agency seems to be evolving. One paper talks about it shifting from purely individual agency to more of a distributed agency or a kind of partnership with technology. It means we need a renewed conversation about how human responsibility and research integrity work in this new context.
So less about humans just using tools and more like humans and AI collaborating. I know the European Commission is looking at different levels, human in the loop, human on loop, human in command. It's a whole spectrum of partnership. But where does responsibility ultimately lie?
Which brings up the huge challenge of alignment. How do we make sure these AI models actually reflect human values and goals? As they learn from massive data sets, there's a real risk they just reproduce or even amplify existing biases. One paper noted that even though LLMs are getting good at things like clinical reasoning, they still need that human in the loop. They don't truly reason like humans, and they often can't access the latest or paywalled information.
And that 10 Simple Rules paper warned about AI creating an illusion of understanding, right? That it might actually hinder real scientific progress if we're not careful. You need to keep your aim in mind, as they put it, balance, optimizing the AI's performance metrics with actual scientific rigor. Don't get fooled by a machine that just sounds smart.
Precisely. And thinking bigger picture, the future probably requires what one paper called a microethics approach. Getting into the nitty-gritty technical details, how is the training data collected? How was it processed? Is it fair? It might mean creating specific data sheets for data sets to track these things. We also need to confront broader issues, like the lack of diversity in the AI field itself, and the often hidden environmental and social costs of running these massive models.
Wow. Okay. So facing this constantly shifting landscape, what are the key takeaways for researchers trying to prepare? How do you navigate this?
Well, based on everything we've discussed, a few things stand out. First, embrace mindful and explainable use. Don't just use AI blindly. Try to understand how it works. Aim for models you can actually interpret and trust. And always quantify the uncertainty in AI predictions. Second, stay critically informed. This field moves incredibly fast. Keep learning, keep adapting. Know that today's hot tool might be outdated tomorrow. Third, champion human oversight. Always reinforce human responsibility at every single stage, from the initial idea right through to publication. The human researcher is ultimately accountable. Fourth, know your journal policies. They're changing. Before you submit anywhere, check their specific up-to-date guidelines on AI use and disclosure. And finally, advocate for stronger standards. Be part of the conversation. Help shape clearer definitions of research integrity and ethical guidelines that explicitly account for AI.
That's a great summary. We certainly covered a lot today, from the basic challenges of research to the really complex ethical web AI introduces, and hopefully some practical ways to navigate it.
Yeah, and the key thing to remember is AI isn't going anywhere. It's an incredibly powerful tool. When used thoughtfully, ethically, it really can boost research and speed up discovery, but you have to see it as an assistant, not a substitute for your own thinking, your own critical judgment, and your own responsibility.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? It means you're actually on the front lines here. You have a really important role in shaping how AI is used ethically in academia going forward. By being transparent, maintaining that human oversight, and staying committed to rigorous science, you can harness AI's power while keeping integrity intact.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. In a world where AI can spit out incredibly convincing information almost instantly, how will you ensure that you continue to cultivate and demonstrate your unique human insight, your critical thinking? How will you make your distinct contribution to advancing knowledge?
We really hope this deep dive has given you a clearer perspective and some practical tools for using AI ethically in your own work. Until next time, keep digging for those insights.